The newest Siena College Poll is out today, and New Yorkers have spoken when it comes to hot topics at the Capitol, including plans to raise the state's minimum wage and talk of changing bail reform laws. Siena pollster Steve Greenberg joining us live tonight with details on how voters across the state responded. Steve, thank you so much for joining us live.
Of course, happy to be here.
First, the big headline of this poll, Governor Hochul's latest approval rating is in for 2023, and it's coming with some good news for the state's first woman governor. Tell us more.
Sure. Well, right now, 56% of New Yorkers say they approve of the job that Kathy Hochul is doing as governor, compared to 36% who disapprove. So 20 points on the positive side. Last month, back in December, it was 49 who approved and 44% who disapproved. So 5 points on the positive. Big jump in her job approval rating.
So things looking good for Governor Hochul at the beginning of the year. Hochul led her State of the State address talking about her plans to tackle violent crime. How did New Yorkers respond to the governor's plans to change the state's bail reform laws, which many critics have blamed for a catch-and-release system leading to a rise in crime?
Sure. We asked voters about several of the proposals in Hochul's State of the State address, bail reform being one of them. And we asked voters, do you support or oppose giving judges more discretion to set bail for offenders accused of serious crimes? 64% of New Yorkers, nearly two-thirds, support, compared to only 24% who oppose. What's interesting, though, is 61% of Republicans, 63% of independents, and 68% of Democrats all agree. Over these last few years, we've talking about the partisan divide on so many issues. This is one of several issues in this poll where we find bipartisan agreement.
Really interesting. And lastly, Hochul has big plans to raise the minimum wage in the state and to tie the wage to the rate of inflation. And this has been really controversial, with many small business owners saying that they may not survive this. What did voters say about raising the minimum wage in New York?
Tying the minimum wage in New York to the cost of inflation, big win from New Yorkers' perspective. 76% support it, only 19% oppose it. And again, this is one of those issues that has strong bipartisan support. Strong support from Democrats, Republicans, and independents.
And Steve, I don't think it's the last time we'll be talking about minimum wage in the Siena poll this year. Steve Greenberg, thank you so much for joining us live tonight.
Killing of a Syracuse girl 1 week ago in a drive-by shooting certainly dominated news coverage here in central New York. But few outside our area know the name Brexialee Torres Ortiz. And the same really is true for victims of violent crime in communities all over our country. Tonight, the story of the artist who is trying to change that, raising the profiles of people lost to violent acts.
This is Philadelphia police officer Johnny Castro at work. The forensic artist, with a large social media following, has painted hundreds of portraits of fallen officers and citizen victims of crime all over the country. This video created by 511 Tactical to show off his work. One of his latest paintings hits close to home in Syracuse.
Is there a choice you made in what I'm looking at right there that you can describe to me? Is there a point in the portrait where you could have chose to go this way or that way and you chose the way that you did?
I guess I could have put her in any outfit. I could have put her, there was quite a few photos of her. I know she was a dancer. She had some pictures of her, you know, in a dance uniform or whatever, but I felt like this one was more poignant. It was, it showed her who she was. She was a bright student. She excelled in school. I thought this was just the best way to remember her.
It's stunning, and all of that hope gone. No one here in Syracuse can get over it.
He comes across the victims and their stories online. Sometimes someone who knows about his hobby sends him a news article. Castro's social media following is impressive. Every portrait he does is shared many hundreds of times.
Why did you start doing what you do?
I do it as a way to memorialize these people, tell their stories to people who may not have heard what happened to them. So I do victims that were taken all over the country, and it's just a way to paint their portrait and share their stories with people all over the country.
Of the more than 1,200 portraits he's completed, almost none of the victims' names are known beyond the communities in which they died. You've never heard of 82-year-old Gary Razor, who worked at a Home Depot in North Carolina and died trying to stop shoplifters, police say. Or 21-year-old Jaylene Holton of Philadelphia, who was struck by a stray bullet fired into the bar she was in, accompanying friends as the designated driver. Castro sends his creations to surviving family members. Their gratitude is fuel to do more of the work, he says.
I've had family members get tattoos of the portrait I painted on them. They'd sent me pictures of the actual tattoo, which is, I never thought somebody would do that. But I think just them sending pictures of this hanging in their house is enough. That this portrait meant that much to them that they want to have it on the walls of their home. I think that means more than anything.
Castro told me that he does hope that if a portrait is shared enough in a community where the crime happened, it could lead to a tip. He does 3 portraits per week in his spare time. He sent off several copies of the Brexialee painting to one of her teachers, who's going to deliver it to her family in Syracuse. And we've learned that calling hours for Brexialee will be Thursday from 3 to 6. The service on Friday, the funeral, is at 11 in the morning. All of this is happening at Tucker Missionary Baptist Church of Syracuse. Baldwinsville School Board is set to talk about a proposed settlement with suspended Superintendent Jason Thompson. He's been on paid leave since October after being arrested and charged with drunk driving. For the last 15 weeks, as he's been on paid leave, he's earned $58,500 as an acting superintendent leads the school district. And now there's word a new leader could take over. The I-Team's Mary Keeler continues with new information on how we got to here.
It starts with this video surfacing after the Baldwinsville homecoming football game on an October Friday night. Baldwinsville police arresting Thompson after students told school leaders they smelled alcohol on him at the game. He was eventually pulled over after police saw him turning into a district parking lot on East Oneida Street. A Baldwinsville police officer calling the police chief, all captured on his body camera.
Hey, Chief, sorry to bother you. So I'm just trying to call and get a heads up and ask you what you want me to do with this. So apparently today at the football game, the superintendent here crowd surfed. They believe he's intoxicated, so they called me for an Alka-Seltzer.
Police say when asked how much he'd been drinking at the station, Thompson said, quote, too much. This after the report shows Thompson initially saying, quote, I had 1 beer at a bar in town. Body camera footage shows him failing field sobriety tests in the district office parking lot.
Yes, sir. Keep blowing, keep blowing. So just the 1 drink?
The following Monday, the Baldwinsville School Board calling a special meeting. Thompson would be suspended with pay, and Deputy Superintendent Joseph DeBarbieri would become acting superintendent. The community with mixed emotions about footing the bill.
He makes over $203,000 for this school year. What's your reaction to that?
So I feel like it should be unpaid leave because it shouldn't be a taxpayer burden to have to pay for his administrative leave while we're still looking into the facts.
Thompson eventually pleaded guilty in December to driving while ability impaired in village court. Now on the board's next regular meeting agenda, discussing a settlement with Thompson to end his employment with the district. But there's another item, the appointment of a new acting superintendent. It says Kathleen Davis, formerly a superintendent in the Holland Patent District, would take over starting on February 1st at a per diem of $800 a day plus an $800 a month housing subsidy. This, as some in the district have pushed for current interim superintendent Joseph DeBarbieri to stay on permanently.